It's interesting that we see some of the data that's coming through here. We saw that over a third of respondents, 35%, stated the amount of time that they spend communicating with their customers has increased throughout the pandemic. We saw 2/3 of the respondents, 67%, stating that they speak to their customers now at least weekly, and over again a third of those customers, in addition to that, stating that they speak to their customers on a daily basis. We also saw the amount of touch points with customers increasing. Over 3/4 of respondents anticipate that this level of communication again will continue after recovery. I mean, we've always been a customer-centric bunch in the field service sector, but I think that closeness to customers is more important than ever, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's quite startling how close customers and field service providers and customers have become. And when you think, the field service provider and their customers are going through the same extraordinary situation in the world and sharing that view. And it's quite natural in a period of crisis for people to over-rotate and to increase the communications to get closer to customers. One of the things that we'll talk about later in terms of growth objectives that the field service providers have is founded on the fact that they're going to focus on customer service and increasing customer service. So that means that they have to become much closer, much more in tune with their customers to be able to understand what their needs are, adapt their processes to their needs, and manage expectations. And I think through that process that both of them went through together, you do have customers looking at what the outcome is rather than the method of delivery for resolution. So the ability to compromise to have somebody provide a remote level of support to resolve a problem rather than somebody being on site is acceptable because they want the outcome done, achieved as quickly as possible and will compromise. And that is a coming together of both the field service providers and their customers, a much tighter partnership than there was before. And that will be their foundation for growth. And technology, as Marc outlined, is critical. And the technology is available that we'll talk about later on in terms of their access to systems, which wasn't there before, that enables them to be successful in doing that.
Yeah, one of the interesting pieces for me, having been a big advocate of the importance of moving towards servitization and advanced services, moving beyond the traditional break-fix approach to service and becoming much more partnership based. There's some really interesting statistics around there, and some that were specifically looking at that advanced services area, but focusing in on that transactional versus partnership based relationships. I thought it was fascinating when we saw so the question, are you under pressure to reduce service costs or increase services provided within the same fee structure? Well, actually, there was a huge amount of pressure. There was 78% of service organizations had been put under that pressure, and they said yes. However, we also saw that there was a huge shift. Perhaps shift is the wrong phrase. I think it already happened, really, to say that most companies viewed the relationships that they had with their customers as partnership based. We saw that 76%, so over 3/4, stated they felt their relationships were partnership based. Perhaps even more tellingly, we saw that 92% stated that they felt their customers would stay the same way. So there's very much a clear kind of understanding of this. And I think that's going to be, just to speak back to your point there, Steve, I think that's going to be quite an important facet of how we all kind of build this new normal together. We seem to have been evolving into this position for quite some time as a sector, as a service sector, where we have an understanding of our customers' needs. We have an understanding, you as a service solution provider to the industry, have an understanding of the service sector's needs. How important, Steve, do you think that that shift is away from transactional to understanding partnership-based, ecosystem-based?
It's in line with the whole move to servicization and outcome-based relationships. In the past, when it was the old world where it was contract based, then customers would expect to have certain on-site delivery activities to occur as a visualization of a realization of the value baked in the contract, i.e. an engineer's on site, he's looked at something, he's gone away. Through this pandemic, it's moved to an outcome based. My systems have got to keep running. I'm happy to have somebody do this remotely. Part of the job remotely, gather more data, come on site, much more interactive. And so it's a natural progression then that people will be looking at the value based on service. So how my systems are going to be kept running, and working in partnership for that. And so that customer view and field service provider view have very much come together, and that will ease the expectations going into a new form of service delivery. From a provider perspective, it's now critical that they make sure that they mature their infrastructure so that they can deliver against those expectations, and that they can respond preemptively to problems, that they can triage things very efficiently so that they can make sure that when the technician does arrive on site, when it is required, that they can maximize the first time fix rate, because customers are not expecting people to be tweaking things, they're expecting people to arrive, be highly effective and get things done. And that's all around partnership. So that has moved forward, which is a great way of culturally of allowing us to move towards this outcome based in a much more quicker and sustained approach.